Cathie Wood just bought about 10 times more Tesla stock than usual. She just purchased $41 million worth of Tesla stock. And right here is a screenshot from the end of December. And if you add these purchases up, usually she would spend less than $4 million at a time on Tesla stock. This time, she did not do small purchases. She just maxed out her position immediately. The main fund is now at 10%. There is some space in one fund that Cathie Wood manages to add more Tesla stock, but this one already is fully maxed out. It is one thing to say that Tesla stock is going to $2,000 per share in 2027, but it is an entirely different thing to be buying so much Tesla stock all at once. But do keep in mind that most of that price target is because of robo-taxis. ARK Invest is not really excited about Tesla's energy storage business, but that is because they are so excited about the vehicle business. They think Tesla will not have enough batteries for the vehicles, so only 3% of Tesla's expected enterprise value is going to come from the energy storage business, says ARK Invest. And their thinking does make sense. It all depends on how bullish really are you on the vehicle business, and ARK Invest is extremely bullish on the vehicle business. This is how much they think Tesla is going to make from each product from battery. So if you use, for example, 1 kilowatt hour of batteries, you make only $33 from energy storage, you make $61 from electric vehicles, you make $93 from electric vehicles with ride hail, and you make $214 from electric vehicles with a robotaxi functionality. They expect profit margins to be at about 20 to 25% from the storage business, which is what Tesla just guided for in the last earnings call. And this is where it gets really interesting. So this is their model with probabilities in terms of where is Tesla stock going to be at in 2027. And as you can see, of course, we have a 25% probability chance, according to ARK Invest, that Tesla stock will be at $1,400, 25% chance that it will be at $2,500. And then I'm not that much interested in these extreme cases, although that is nice to know that there is a 1% chance that Tesla stock is going to be roughly at $6,000 per share, according to ARK Invest. What I am more interested in is what they think about their worst case scenario based on their model. And you can still see that it is comfortably above $500, maybe about $600-ish. I'll need to zoom in to see more clearly, but certainly above $500. Let's say 600, that's more than a tripling from where we are right now. And this is probably the most controversial part of the report, and that is the robotaxi model. When is full self-driving going to be solved? There are many ways to think about it. I want to dive into it a little bit deeper than yesterday. Some people like to take the probability, for example, let's say a 33% chance that full self-driving is going to be solved, and then you build a model based on where Tesla stock is going to be if full self-driving is going to be solved in 2024. Other people, for example, like to look at this and say, okay, it appears that they think full self-driving is definitely going to be solved before 2028 starts, because they think it is not going to be solved in 2028, 2029, or 2030, which implies that they believe it will be solved in one of these years. A few things to keep in mind about that. If you add up these numbers, they actually add up to 101%, but that does not guarantee, even based on their research, that actually there is a 100% chance that full self-driving is going to be solved before the start of 2028. I mentioned this maybe half a year ago, but we have so many new people watching that I need to explain this again. Imagine that you roll a dice that has 6 sides on it. What is the probability that you will roll a 6? Well, you would simply take 100%, divide that by 6, and you will have about a 17% chance that you will roll a 6. But if you take this number times 6, it does not mean that if you roll the dice 6 times, you will definitely for sure 100% get a 6. But what it clearly implies is, on average, if you roll it 6 times, you will get a 6. So if you look at ARK Invest research, and if you think that they know a thing or two about autonomy or artificial intelligence, then your conclusion would be that almost guaranteed, according to ARK Invest, full self-driving is going to be solved before the end of 2027, but that does not guarantee it will be solved even according to their research. It implies it will be solved, but it does not guarantee it. Investing is all about probabilities, and I like to know what is the worst case scenario, and to me, I pick 2030. Before the end of 2030, I think full self-driving is going to be solved. I don't make my investment decisions based on what is the most likely outcome. I make my decisions based on what I think is the worst, actually realistic case scenario. I'm not talking about some completely made up worst case scenario. I'm talking about what is a very realistic worst case scenario, like a 1% chance probability. I make my decisions based on these assumptions then. The main reason why I do that is because Tesla stock is 100% of my stock portfolio. If it was only 10%, I would make my decisions based on what I think is the most likely outcome, and I would not be worried about the downside as much as I am right now. But I am a fairly conservative investor, and Tesla stock is 100% of my stock portfolio, so I want to know that this money is going to be fine even in a very realistic worst case scenario. And in the worst case scenario, really for myself, I am assuming that Tesla is not going to solve full self-driving, let's say by 2030 even. And in that case, I want to know, will Tesla stock still at least beat S&P 500? Or in the absolute worst case, that it will not lose value even adjusted for inflation. And I believe very strongly that the chance of Tesla stock actually losing money even adjusted for inflation 10 years from now is absolutely minuscule. It's not impossible, of course, because everything is possible. But realistically speaking, I think that chance is extremely low and not significant. And that is why I'm putting all of my stock portfolio into Tesla stock. And actually, if you dig deeper into ARK Invest report, you will see that in the worst case, they think it will be launched in 2030, meaning that's when robotaxis would be launched in the worst case scenario. My worst case scenario just assumes full self-driving would be sold in 2030. It may take some time for robotaxis to actually be commercially launched. And the reason why, when you look at this graph, these numbers show up as zeros is because if you have a number that is almost zero, when you round up the numbers, you will get a 0. That's why. Elon Musk on this last earnings call actually said that he thinks full self-driving is going to be solved this year. He did not say that on the Q4 earnings call in January. So it's interesting that this time he actually did. Before, you could make an argument that, oh, Elon is just pumping the stock, perhaps, if you're really cynical. He just wants all of his Tesla stock options to vest, but now everything vested. He can exercise these Tesla stock options at any time. He doesn't need to pump the stock anymore. So really, I think the main reason why he's saying that, and this could be the only reason perhaps also, is because he really believes it is going to happen this year. Now, whether he's going to be right or wrong, I'm not going to get into that. But 1 year, he will certainly be right. And I think so many Tesla stock investors are really jaded. They don't want to hear about full self-driving. Don't tell me about full self-driving. You have been telling me about full self-driving for so many years now, and where is it? It's nowhere, except if I get into my Tesla and turn on full self-driving, there are times when it drives me to my destination with 0 interventions. That's not the default, but if it's, let's say, a 10 or 15-minute drive, it has happened. So I personally think, really, you are not bullish because perhaps you don't have full self-driving and you're not experiencing the pace of innovation. It's pretty fast. And another thing that I found just watching the full self-driving videos, you don't get the feeling of how confident the car actually is. When FSD is on and you are in front of that wheel, it's a whole different feeling. And it's a whole different level of understanding. Oh yeah, the car is actually really confident. It drives really smoothly. When you watch a full self-driving video, it's so difficult to gauge how confident the actual system is if it doesn't do anything weird. You can tell when it's not confident, but when you get in the car and it turns through an intersection and you feel how fast it's going, you feel the gravity, you feel the inertia, you realize the vehicle is actually more confident than many drivers in many situations. And in many cases, it actually drives better. That's not the default, but in many situations, it does. And this is an important message to all Tesla stock investors. My name is Matt Post. Just like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.